If you guys know me, I'm from Bonnie and Chai, the live streaming channel on TikTok and Twitch. This is my YouTube section where I talk about true crime and really dark, disturbing things. But yeah. So the first thing that I am doing on my channel is I am talking about Dorothea Helen PUENTE, aka the Deathhouse landlady. She was the first part of my true crime series and the first female on my channel that I chose to research about. Her method of murder was poison, and all the way up until the day she passed, she said she was innocent. We're going through her life before, during, and after everything she did. So, without no further ado, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and comment. How do you think she got, caught? Her childhood has a lot of loopholes. She was born January 9th, 1929, in San Bernardino County. Where in this town, it looks like a literal boom town. If you don't know what a boom town is, go look it up. I'll even put pictures up for you guys what it looked like. Her dad was a farmer and her mom was a prostitute. So you think she had it bad there, you know? Well, I was reading a lot of misconception, or what's the word? Basically, they were very unreliable. They were really unreliable due to the circumstances going on with what happened to her dad. So, multiple sources would say that he was suicidal, and at one point in her childhood, he offs herself. But this is where multiple sources start telling their different variations of her story, where Oxygen TV would go to say that she was 8 years old when he passed. True TV said that he was 4. But Los Angeles Times goes over and says that he didn't die, that he would just wave a gun around towards his head, blaming her for her mom's death that happened when she was 10, and she was taken out of the home and put into foster care. So, yeah. Now, she's put into foster care until she gets SA'd in one of the homes, according to Los Angeles Times. Which I think this caused her to lie about her childhood, which she would go over and say that she was one of the 18 children born in Mexico. Now we're heading to more traumatizing measures of her adolescent / adult life. So she's now 16 and she started engaging into sex work, which, well, if you look at it in a certain way, it's oh, okay, that happened, different times, different measures, right? Different times, different laws, different everything. So this could be where she meets her first husband. And in 1946, she gets married to a World War II veteran. She gets pregnant and doesn't want to keep the baby. So she ends up giving the baby to one of the relatives. And then following that year, she gets pregnant again, doesn't want to keep the baby. It is 1947 and puts them up for adoption. According to Sactown magazine, though. This is according to Sactown magazine. So, in 1948, she would then split from her husband, but other sources said that he has a heart attack. So I tried really hard to look where the other sources say that he has a heart attack. It's stated in a lot of documentaries with her, but in one article it states that she just splits from him. So that's why I put other sources. Soon after, she would go to jail for forging checks, and she was sentenced for a year in jail, which in a way, if like the sources aren't like adding up, that could be another thing, another unsolved mystery on if he actually did like pass away from natural causes or if she did something to him. But there's not a lot of evidence going into that, so that is just a theory, because if you look at what she does later on, it follows a lot into her patterns on what she does. So she was put on parole for like 6 months soon after her release. She then gets pregnant by a man that nobody knows. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody knows anything about this man. And she gives up her third child for adoption, which it could stem from what happened to her as a child, is why she gave up 3 kids for adoption and didn't want to raise them. She probably didn't think that she was ready, which is understandable, which doesn't make her a monster for giving up her children. But what does make her a monster is what she does to other people. So keep that in mind, you guys. In 1952, she married a man named Axel Johansson. They had like a very violent 14-year marriage. So during the time that she was married to him in 1960, she gets caught at a brothel raid and was sentenced to 90 days in Sac County Jail. Then arrested again for vagrancy. This is the state of living without having a settled home, regular work, wandering from place to place, living by asking for money or food, living life as a vagrant. So she served another 90 days. Following that, she got involved into some more serious acts on top of these, where she would eventually find work as a nurse aide, caring for the elderly and disabled in private homes. But in a short time, she started to manage boarding houses. So during that time that she was married to Axel Johansson, she has her she's basically living life as a vagrant and doesn't have any place to go. She gets caught at a brothel when they raided it. She gets really off the rails. Her life isn't going the way that she probably thinks it was supposed to go. And she's probably just getting really frustrated, getting pissed off, and you could really tell she's just falling into the cracks of what society brings. So then you go over into she's now working in these private homes where she started to manage these houses, boarding houses. If you don't know what a boarding house is, I'll show you a picture and I will explain So a boarding house is for people that need a place to stay, a place to live, and they would give you the money to pay rent for, because around the time it's really like hard for them to pay along themselves. So this lady would be like their landlord, and she would pay them for cheap, as well as taking care of them, feeding them, clothing them. And if you know what a hostel is, I looked up, it's similar towards that, along with like, if you look up prison boarding houses, when inmates get out, they go to a boarding house to like make sure that they follow up with everything. I've seen it a couple times, but I think that's like the closest way that that is what I can explain from there. I'll probably put a section talking about it. So 1966, she divorces Johansson and now marries Roberto Puente within that same year, which they only are married for like 2 years. And during the time while they are married, she ends up getting a three-story 16 bathroom care home at, and I'm going to say the address, and I do not need you guys going over and vandalizing this address, calling it every sort of name in the book. That is not needed. You get what I'm saying? That is not needed. This is what happened in the past. These are addresses that do have ties to her case. So where she lived at, where she bought this home, is 2100 P Street in Sac, California. That was her boarding house. I don't know what it looks like now. I could probably look it up on Google Maps and show you guys a picture. But we're not trying to do anything like that at all. You get what I'm saying? This is for educational purposes. Anybody that tries to go over to these addresses and vandalize stuff, you guys need to chill out. You understand? Okay, got it. So the marriage doesn't last long between her and Puente, and they end up leaving. She ends up leaving him because she ends up one of them ends up having an affair, which I think it was him that had an affair, because he was young. She was a little on the older scale. Where the signs of her killing started was in this like 3-story house she had. Like, this is where it all starts. So her neighbor noticed something very odd. So she had this homeless man. His name was Chief. And this was someone Dorothea stated was her adopted son. And she made him her handyman, which she had him dig up the basement and cart soil and trash and garbage with a wheelbarrow and then lay concrete. She would then have him work on the garage. And then soon after he'd work on the garage, Chief disappeared. Like, it was like poof, he's gone. Nobody knows what happens to him. But this is when she gets in a relationship with this guy named Pedro Molotov. And during that time, she's like having the handyman work, the neighbors noticing some odd crap, and literally she's just pocketing money while she's still doing everything that she can. So they didn't last either. They only lasted for a few months in that marriage as well. So she starts spending time in local bars looking for men to take in and take care of them. So this is where her colorful, curated criminal history starts to evolve. So she commits treasury fraud and gets charged on 34 counts. While on probation, she continues to do it too. She continues to do what she's doing. 1981, according to California Court of Appeal records, she starts renting an upstairs apartment. Now again, this is the address. I don't need you guys to go to this address. This is just for educational purposes, and this is what I found. So, on 1426 F Street, downtown Sactown, 9 murders, which she was convicted for and associated with this apartment. So this apartment now has her 9 murders connected to it. So this is for the paranormal people. They could probably go and look into this, but we do not go and vandalize. The paranormal people, if you're trying to investigate stuff and you hear like certain things from this stuff, please note, like, we don't do anything messed up to the apartment. Okay, so she gets convicted for 3 of the murders associated with this apartment and not associated with the murder that happened in her 16-room boarding house. So, in 1982, Ruth Monroe begins living with her and would soon die from an overdose of codeine and Tylenol. Puente would then tell the police, like, oh, she was depressed and that her husband was terribly ill. They believed her. Like, whatever, like, was said during that time, they believed her. So, they ruled her death as a suicide. So, from there, cops come back. A few weeks later, after a 74-year-old man accuses her of drugging him and robbing him. So she kind of messed up. You kind of see, like, she kind of got a feel of what she can do. But she slipped up. She slipped up 100%. So she goes over, gets convicted of 3 counts of theft, and serves 5 years in jail. While she's in jail, she meets a 77-year-old man named Everson Gilmoth, which, I'm not gonna lie, this name has sounded so familiar and when I watch paranormal shows and everything. So if you guys could figure out who Everson Gilmoth is, so they become like pen pals, and she gets released in 1985. So she's only serving jail for like 3 years. She starts renting an apartment. And it's like, I want to say it's the same apartment that she got arrested in, because literally the pen pal, though, picks her up and they start making plans to get married. But the crazy part is, I'm going to tell you the key part. Now pay attention. So her partner picks her up in this red Ford, this red Ford truck in November of 1985. So the same year she gets let out. In November, Dorothea hired a guy named Ishmael Flores to install some wood paneling, who she paid him like $800. But you know what the crazy part is? She gives him her new boyfriend's Ford, that red Ford that he picked her up in. But she told him that he didn't need it anymore and that he could keep it. Then she asked him to do one more thing. And you know what that one more thing was? It was to build a box 6 feet by 3 feet by 2 feet. 2 feet, remember. So, and she told him it's to store books and to store junk. Like nothing more. She then asked him to transport this box that's nailed shut and full to a riverbank. And when he asked her why, she told him not to worry, it's just junk and everything. But you know what's crazy? I think like weeks later, a fisherman spots this box, and turns out from the police, investigators found a body unrecognizable of an elderly man. While this is happening, Puente's collecting money and literally wrote letters to this guy's family saying that he was ill and couldn't visit them, and would come up with excuses why he couldn't go and visit. So she maintained a business talking to 40 new tenants who were drug addicts and alcoholics, and she was making a really good profit. She still cruises bars looking for new customers. Every month, Puente collected all her money on the 1st, right? But what happens? She doesn't do it legally. She goes in to the tenant's mail, and before they even saw it, she only gives them the small amount. So they assume that they only get a small amount of money. So the tenants are allowed to squander their money nowhere else, at a bar, where they end up getting picked up by the police and jailed for 30 days following anonymous tips. Where this is where I'm low-key thinking she goes over and sees them squandering their money at bars, and she'll just be like, yeah, so-and-so's over. Like, she might have snitched. She might have. Like, I don't know. She might have, to be honest. Like, because what happens next is crazy. This is where she starts pocketing the money. She starts pocketing her tenants' money, and while they're in jail for those 30 days. She starts pocketing a lot more money, so they don't notice what's going on. November 11th, 1988, the police found a body buried in her lawn. So what she could have done during this time when she gets those anonymous, like when her tenants are arrested on anonymous tips, she could have like taken out somebody right then and there. Like someone that none of us know, and probably hid the body. Like, that could have been what happened. I don't know how she did it. I wouldn't know at all. Like, honestly, it is a very, very wild thing to say. But that is just my assumption. So they find the body in her yard, and then they find 7 more following the board house, you know? So she gets charged with the 9 murders, but only gets convicted of 3 of them, because how can she prove what happened to the other 3? She probably blamed one of her tenants for it. So her judge was Judge Michael J. Virgin, Virgin. And declared mistrial when jury said further deliberation would not change their mind. Under law, she received life with no parole. She maintained incarcerated at Central California Women Facility, CCWF, in Chowchilla, Mondrea County, in California. So for the rest of her life, she stays there, and she kept saying she's innocent. She kept saying that she didn't do it, that she insisted all of her tenants died of natural cause, but would not answer, okay, then why bury them? But if you look at it, if her tenants did die of natural cause, she would still be arrested for fraud. She would still be arrested for identity theft. She would still be arrested because she was collecting money from their disability checks, from everything. She would still be arrested. So she would go over and then die March 27, 2011, in prison from natural causes, which is ironic. She said she died, like, her tenants died of natural causes, but the evidence said otherwise. We're going through her psychological standpoint. So when I'm explaining this, I want you to understand, this is the psychological point. I want you guys to take this very lightly when I say this. Pay attention to what I'm saying. Okay. So, she was considered a white-collar serial killer due to her manipulativeness, being a convicted social worker who was pretending to be a caretaker while hiding bodies. Her deception, she used multiple aliases, fake backgrounds, and charitable acts to avoid suspicion. Mind you, she would go over and pretend like she was really nice. She'll be like, yeah, I'll take care of you. I got you. I'm a good citizen of this dear country. Like, what else would you guys want? Well, she'll go over and take your money and, like, scam you. Like, she was the definition of a scam artist and a con artist and everything in between. So, she was very superficial. So, her superficial charm, so basically, she had a very successful boarding house and had connections with social working and presented herself as a sweet old lady. Lack of empathy. She had so much lack of empathy, and this was considered from when she poisoned her tenants and buried them in her backyard. She was a financially motivated psychopath, so she killed to steal money, not in rage, and to avoid being caught. So, like, let's say, like, so she would steal their money, and whoever caught on, she'd go over, take them out. Nobody would suspect anything. And if anybody asked, she'd be like, oh, he moved out. I don't know where he is. Don't know why you're asking me. When we all can, like, literally sit there and be like, okay, that's odd, So, she was criminal versatility, I think that's how you call it, or say it. So she was convicted of fraud, theft, forgery, and murder over time. So here's the other section of it. So she targeted the vulnerable. She had body bag disposal, slow poisoning, and check fraud scheme. She had a check fraud scheme, you guys. Like, she probably when they signed that little lease agreement, she was probably like, okay, I got your signature, now I can copy it. So, yeah, like, the Deathhouse landlady was her name for a reason. So, she was a high-functioning psychopath. So, everything I just said about her being a white-collar serial killer, now, her trait is how she exhibited. She was a kind killer, literally how she did that. So her archetype was a kindly killer. Her strategy was to empathy appeal, where she pretended to help. Authority manipulation. So remember, she was able to con her way into getting a lot of this stuff. So she probably had really deep communication, like connections, as well as she would lie to the police. Deflection and diversion. She would fake charity work and then take them out. So she was a black widow. She had like She would go over, take these men in, and as you can see, they all mysteriously, either some of them would leave, some of them would die. So, there's that. Kills for financial gain. Yep. uses poison. Check. Preys on close individuals. Mind you, she preyed on her tenants. They had to be close to her in order for her to take them out. Her roommate, she took him out. And that pen pal, she took him out. So again, if anybody tries to sympathize with this one, she was not a good person. She literally was not. So she would then she will maintain like this long criminal career that blended so easily into society, which you wouldn't think or figure out that was how it was supposed to go, you know? Like, literally, you would think like, oh, she's just, it happens to the best of us, you know, in a successful industry. File the wrong papers, like, people wouldn't think, oh, she took out people. Hope you guys liked the video. I know I haven't gone live, so if you ever do want to catch me live, my Twitch handles are all on the screen, as well as my TikTok as well. Follow my TikTok for clips, and go over and follow my YouTube. I will be coming out with more, so for those that watch the whole entire video, comment, who do you want me to research and do next? Or what would you guys like me to look into the deep history of next? It was a lot of fun doing this, and I do want to try more and more and more again. So I am very excited. So for you guys on YouTube, you guys get everything first. Like I said, you guys get everything first. If you are trying to listen to this on Spotify, there is a Spotify channel being made as we speak, and I am going to be putting this out probably around the same day this comes out. Until then, thank you guys so much for watching, and I do love the support. Thank you guys. I can't wait to do more. So remember, like, subscribe, and follow on all accounts. Thank you. And we're heading into 1 mil, and then I'll be doing a face reveal. 1 mil on all accounts, including this one. So once we get my whole account to 1 mil, I'll reveal my face, you guys. I'm not afraid. Alrighty, bye guys.